Welcome to my example radar chain video for Route 4. This will be part of a series of videos where I will be demonstrating how to optimally radar chain for shinies in each route in Pokemon X and Y. I will be making references to the Poké Radar route analysis document in this video. The link to the document will be in the description of this video if you don't already have it. Okay, the easiest way to get to Route 4 is just by heading north from Santaloon City. So I'm in Santaloon City at the moment, Route 4 is just up here. The Pokemon available at Route 4 are Ladybug, Skitty, Budew, Combee, Ralts, and all of the Flabebe colors except for blue. Yellow, orange, and white Flabebe are also available at Route 7, which is a far better place to chain, so make sure you hunt those there instead of here. Because Route 4 is such an awful place to chain, make sure to consider alternative methods and games before deciding to hunt a particular target here. But the most relevant targets are Budew and Red Flower Flabebe. Route 4 Kalos is the only place you can find Budew in the wild in any Gen 6 or 7 Pokemon game. And it's the only place you can find Red Flower Flabebe in the wild in any Pokemon game. Red Flower Flabebe also happens to be the most difficult Gen 6 Poké Radar target of all. And I'll talk more about hunting Red Flower Flabebe when I start discussing resetting for shiny patches. But you may honestly not care too much about the shinies when chaining this route. In my experience, most people who chain Route 4 do so for a personal challenge or part of some larger shiny hunting challenge. The reason I first chained Route 4 was because I wanted to conquer, that is 40 chain, every radarable route in Kalos, and I encourage people who enjoy radar chaining to try and do the same. So Route 4 is pretty objectively the worst place to radar chain in all of X and Y. However, don't let this 11 out of 10 difficulty rating intimidate you too much. 40 chaining this route is far from impossible. I have personally done it 9 times before, and I know of several other people who have also been able to successfully accomplish this task. The difficulty of chaining Route 4 is almost entirely a consequence of the fields of flowers you are forced to chain in being tiny and shaped in such a way that you have almost no safe options, and therefore you will have to take mostly edge patches to build your chain with. This means that chaining here will mostly come down to luck, and most importantly, your patience to grind through all of the inevitable broken chains until you eventually get the right RNG to be able to string 40 encounters together. I would advise against attempting to chain Route 4 until you have successfully 40 chained most of the other routes in Kalos first. A successful Route 4 chain will take a long time, and the longer a chain is, the more opportunities there are to mess up. I'd recommend being confident in your chaining abilities before tackling this route. Before I get to anything else, there is something peculiar about Route 4 and the Poké Radar that requires explanation. There may be some people who are wondering why I'm telling you to chain in these fields of flowers when there are clearly better spots to chain at the north part of the route. I have this note at the top of the Route 4 section in the radar document that reads, "The Poké Radar is broken in the north part of Route 4 as patches do not spawn correctly. You must chain in the following areas." So I can demonstrate what I mean by this. So by the north part of Route 4, I'm talking about these fields of flowers that are up here. And you could imagine maybe resetting here in this field of flowers. Or maybe resetting, say, here in this field would work out okay and would at least be better than chaining in the south part of the route. Unfortunately, this is not an option, and to demonstrate why, I'm going to temporarily edit my patch spawn probability calculator here. I'm going to edit this calculation, and I'm going to change this to odds of spawning at least 2 patches. And I'm going to calculate the odds of spawning at least 2 patches resetting at this tile. So this is 8, 16, 9, 7. So the odds of spawning at least 2 shaking patches when resetting at this tile calculates to 100%. So we're going to reset here to test this. Did you see that? Something is very wrong here. Only 1 patch shook, and that isn't supposed to be possible. So it turns out, when resetting at this tile, the spawnable area doesn't actually look like this as it's supposed to. A better representation of what is actually going on is this. Patches cannot spawn more than 1 tile above or below you. Same thing goes for resetting here and resetting in these fields of flowers as well. I've spent a fair amount of time resetting up here to test if I could get anything to work, but I can't find anything usable. The only way you will see a patch in Zone 4 shake is if it spawns to the left or right of you. So if you reset here, for example, you can get a patch in Zone 4 shake to the right of you. But this is useless considering the shape of these flower fields. I don't know why it's like this, but this bug was apparently never fixed in a patch or anything. Feel free to try this out for yourself and see if you can figure out anything. But I've tried and the radar just doesn't work. Therefore, chaining up there is going to be objectively worse than chaining at the south part of the route, where the Poké radar does actually work correctly. There are 2 different usable fields of flowers for chaining at Route 4. A larger one here, and this smaller one up here. And this route is symmetrical, so you have identical mirror images of the flowers on the other side. The good news is that you don't need to and shouldn't pick and commit to chaining in just one. These 2 fields are just close enough together that you can freely migrate between them without breaking your chain. And this is very useful because the larger field is more suitable at lower chain lengths, and the smaller field is useful at higher chain lengths when you no longer want to take risks. And before you even attempt to start a chain here, I highly suggest practicing the migration process first. Not that it's hard at all, but the time to migrate is when your chain length is very high, so you don't want to mess this up. I do have a video tutorial on migrating chains, so you can check that out if you want a more detailed explanation. So the distance between these 2 tiles is 16 tiles in the y-axis. So if you reset here, you have 1 tile of leeway to work with to make it up here before your chain breaks. So as long as you reset the radar on these tiles and don't accidentally walk too far, your chain won't break. So just to demonstrate this, make sure to reset here before you move up. And as you can hear, the music is still going, so our chain is still intact. And that's successful migration. And just to demonstrate migrating back down. Again, make sure you reset on this tile. And that's it. Simple as that. And just to demonstrate, if the bottom flower was your last reset tile, so if we reset here, for example, then you won't be able to make it up all the way before your chain breaks. And as you can hear, the music has stopped, so our chain is now broken. So again, just make sure you reset on these 2 tiles and you'll be fine. So yeah, I'd suggest just to practice doing that a couple of times, just to make sure you are comfortable migrating before starting any chains. Okay, for reset tile strategies when chaining in this field, there are only 3 enclosed grass tiles that it is safe to reset, and each of these options are bad. But of the 3 choices we have, the least terrible option is to reset on the topmost tile here, for the reason that resetting here maximizes the number of grass tiles in Zone 3, and these 3 down edges are actually some of the best options we have to work with here. When your chain length gets higher and you no longer want to take as many risks, it isn't going to matter much which of these 3 tiles you reset, but for early chain, resetting here is definitely the play. None of the grass tiles in Zone 4 are safe options, so every patch you take when building your chain here will be risky. Of the edges in Zone 4, the inside ones are safer than the ones on the outside. The safest option being this one here, which has about a 3.3% chance of breaking your chain. A quick analysis of the edge patches in Zone 3. This corner is pretty risky. This edge is actually not as bad as it looks. Even though it's a corner, there is quite a bit of grass in Zone 2 and Zone 3. This edge is one of the safest options we have. And these edges on the bottom row are passable, but they do get riskier as you get closer to the corner. It may be tempting to reset somewhere like here, which would give you far better options, but this clearly isn't practical considering this 5% chance that your chain may just break each time you reset. I may reset here a couple of times at the start of my chain, but I wouldn't push my luck any more than that. And for this smaller field of flowers up here, you either have to reset on the very left or right side in order for it to be possible for an ideal patch to spawn. The reason you chain at this spot is for grinding safe patches. There is one safe enclosed 4-zone grass tile, as well as an enclosed 3-zone patch you have to work with here. There really are no other options worth considering. The edge patches here are too risky. The ones in Zone 4 are 9.7%. If you are still willing to risk edge patches, you shouldn't be up here. You should still be chaining in the larger field where the edge patches are much safer. Only chain at this spot when your chain length is at the point where you no longer want to take risks. And it may not be a bad idea to practice resetting up here a bit before you start chaining as well. You may find it a bit tricky to reset here as you are blocked in by the hedges, and you don't want to make any mistakes when you get to the point of grinding safe patches in an actual chain. Okay, one last thing before we start chaining. Make sure you bring enough repels. You will need a lot more chaining here than your typical radar hunt. I would say 500 super repels minimum. You are going to use a lot during the chain, and you want to be prepared in case the shiny patch takes forever to show up, which is entirely possible with odds this underwhelming. If you are hunting red flower flabebe, I'd suggest maxing out on all 3 types of repels, but I'd assume anyone dedicated enough to attempt that hunt would want to be adequately prepared. Alright, so for starting your chain, if you want to chain anything that isn't Ladybur, I reset here. This will give you the best odds for a patch to shake that you can use to start your chain with. Ladybur has a higher encounter rate in the red flowers, so if you specifically want to chain Ladybur, reset here in the red flowers like this. That will give you a much better chance of getting a red flower patch to shake, which you can use to start your chain. I'm not going to chain anything in particular, so I'm just going to reset here to start my chain. Okay, I will chain this Combi. Okay, this is where I'll be resetting for the majority of this chain. There are no opportunities of spawning ideal patches from resetting at this tile, so I'll be taking a lot of risks in order to build this chain. Okay, this patch is one of the best options we have. This was a 4, it's on a 5% edge. And when you take one of these bottom row patches here, this is one of the best opportunities you have of getting a good patch to spawn is when the radar activates after this encounter. So I'm going to pay attention here. No. As you can see, in the current reset tile diagram, there's a lot of red around that tile. Now I'm actually going to push my luck a bit and actually reset here. Alright, that corner is 10%, very risky, but we're playing the RNG game at the start of this chain. Okay, this is a 2. This is on a 7.6% edge. Very risky. Okay, this is a 1 that isn't on an edge. Okay, obviously you're going to be breaking a lot of chains playing like this, but this is honestly the best way to chain this route. It takes so long to grind out safe patches that it isn't worth it. You're just much better off playing the RNG game and just grinding through all the broken chains until you eventually get lucky. It's honestly the best way to play this route. When I get to a 15 chain, we'll start taking it a bit more seriously. Obviously this field of flowers is symmetrical, so resetting on the other side here is also fine. This is a very safe edge though. This is actually the safest edge in this field. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is that this route does have a kind of a bad camera angle. So if I'm standing on the top row like this, you'll notice you can't really see the flowers that are 4 tiles down. It really only takes into account a bit when you take a patch that is on the top row when the grass shakes up the encounter. So I'll talk more about that when I'm actually in that situation. Okay, the 4 was a medium shaker. I'm going to take this 3. This patch is probably one of the better options we have. It's 4.4%. Okay. Okay. Decent patch spawn here. And again, this is your best opportunity here to get a good patch spawn after this encounter, so make sure you pay attention. There we go. Not on a very safe edge at all, but it was a 4. The 4 was a medium shaker there. Rare example of a patch not being on an edge. I'm always kind of excited when that patch shakes, even though it's a 2 and it's not safe at all. It's actually a patch that isn't on an edge for once. Ooh, good patch spawn here. Okay, I'm definitely not taking any more 1s. So only 2, but decent edge, I guess. Taking that 1 is tempting, but I'm not going to. I think I pushed my luck with them too much so far. Okay. Its edge is 5.5%, I believe. Yep. Okay, so to talk more about the bad camera angle again, this really only becomes kind of an issue when you take one of these patches on the top row here. You'll notice, if you look at the edge patch diagram in the top right, the entire bottom row of patches are red in the diagram, so there's an opportunity of spawning a fast shaker in any of those tiles, and if that happens you don't want to miss it. But they are very difficult to see due to the bad camera angle here. So when you take one of these patches on the top row here, and when the grass shakes after the encounter, you want to look down there, look at the bottom of the screen and listen very carefully for the fast shakers, because if a good patch spawns there, you don't want to miss it. Okay, we didn't get one, but we got a fast shaker. Yeah, it kind of looks like you wouldn't be able to see the fast shakers at all because of the camera angle, but you can actually just see them barely if you're paying attention. Okay. Yeah, this one is the riskiest edges that can spawn in Zone 4 from our reset tile. But still definitely worth risking at this point. And again, paying attention to the 4 down patches. Okay, so now I've made it to a 16 chain. I'm going to be a bit more picky with what patches I step into now. I'm not going to step into any 2s or 1s anymore, and I'm going to be a bit more picky with the edge patches. But this one here is okay. This patch is the second best option we have. So edge is 3.5%. No regrets if this patch breaks your chain. Always step into this one if it shakes. And we got the God Patch spawn. This doesn't happen very often, but it's super nice when it does. This patch is the best option we have. No regrets if this one breaks your chain. Always step into this one if it shakes. Ooh, lucky patch spawn here. So 3 on a very safe edge. Edge is actually not too bad. I don't think we want to risk that one at this chain length. We're at 23. I'm going to start being even pickier with the edges at this point. I mean, yeah, that edge is 3.6% and it's a 3. That edge shook twice in a row there. It's 7.3%. Don't want to risk that. This is what we want to see. Okay, this is a 3, but the edge is very safe. I'm gonna keep risking these. Well, the edge isn't very safe, but it's relatively safe, considering most of our options. Okay. This patch shook again. We want to risk this patch 3 times in a row. No, I think I'm not going to take any more 3s in this chain. Okay. This part of the chain, you're gonna start getting really worried when you're coming out of the encounter whether anything's actually gonna shake. So these outside edges are less safe than the inside ones. We really hope that the inside ones shake. Okay, we're still good. Oh, the game is tempting me with this patch here. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to risk any more 3s. I feel like I've taken too many 3s in this chain. My luck's going to run out soon. Don't know if I want to risk those outside edges anymore. Oh, we got the God Patch spawn. Oh, that was lucky. Okay, so my chain length is now at 32, and I really don't want to lose my chain to an edge patch chain break at this point. So I'm going to migrate now. So remember, reset here, and then from here we can move up. Carefully, okay. So this is the part of the chain that isn't fun. Chaining here, we can completely avoid the possibility of an edge patch chain break, because there is one single flower tile in Zone 4 that isn't on an edge. So resetting here, for that one patch to spawn as a fast shaker is about 2.2%. So 1 in every 45 or so resets on average, you should expect that patch to shake as a fast shaker. Yeah, so we basically got to grind out a 1 in 45 chance 8 times in order to reach 40. This takes absolutely forever and isn't much fun, which is precisely why I don't recommend doing this for the entirety of your chain. It's much better to just play the RNG game, take a lot of risks to build your chain up quickly, and then try and grind out safe patches right at the end. And yeah, no matter how slowly and carefully we take, there is still the possibility of the wrong Pokemon showing up in an ideal patch. No matter how careful we are, so... yeah, that's another reason why I certainly don't recommend doing this for the entire length of your chain. And we don't want to be risking any edge patches from here on. The edge patches here are very unsafe, so the ones in Zone 4 are 9.7%. So if an edge patch shakes, we're definitely avoiding it. If you're still willing to risk edge patches, you shouldn't be up here. You should still be down in the larger field. You can always run to the other side and reset here if that's easier. If there's like a patch in your way, you can just step outside the field and just run to the other side. Might be easiest just to do that every time. You also got to be careful not to accidentally reset on an edge here, because you're going to be just resetting just so many times. You might start to get a bit lazy, and sometimes you may accidentally reset here, which has a 17% chance of breaking your chain, so you don't want to do that. So you still want to be careful. And obviously you can reset on the other side like this as well. Although you generally probably don't want to do that. Okay, we got one. Just need 7 more of those. Something I didn't mention was about when you should migrate. In this chain, I migrated at 32. But at what chain length you decide to migrate is really up to you. Basically, do it whenever you don't really feel safe anymore and you don't want to risk any more edge patches. I probably wouldn't do it any earlier than 25. But do keep in mind that chaining up here is absolutely miserable, so if you migrate at 25, then you have to grind out an entire 15 safe patches like this. So do keep that in mind. Oh, it didn't take too many resets to get that one. Resetting here is kind of annoying because you're blocked in by these hedges. It's very rare, but it is kind of possible for a patch to spawn and you won't be able to get to it if there's too many other patches like in the way, because you can't really run around because of the hedges in the way. If that happens, you could get to it by walking diagonally between the patches. But it's actually possible to actually just like walk all the way around and walk through the hedge maze to get to the patch. I'll try and demonstrate that the next time I get a good patch to spawn. Alright, so in this case here, there was a clear path up here, but say hypothetical situation that I got blocked in by patches and I couldn't get through. What you can actually do is just walk all the way around carefully. Like this. So you can do that to get to the patch if you really think you need to for whatever reason. Okay, here we had the 3 spawn as a fast shaker. Not gonna risk that because I'm at 35, but if you migrated earlier than I did, you might want to consider risking those. I'd highly recommend taking breaks whilst doing this. Every 4 or so encounters, just put your 3DS down, close the lid, go and do something else for a while, then come back to this chain. Finally! That patch took forever. I don't know how many manual resets that was, but it was a lot. The 4 was a medium shaker there. It's always a bit sad when that happens. Fortunately, it's quite a bit more likely to spawn as a fast shaker. The game will constantly troll you by putting medium shakers on the tile you need it to, and by putting ideal patches on the edges. But you gotta stay focused. Should be 40. Here's our Route 4 40 chain. Okay, so this field is pretty useless for resetting for shiny patches. So you want to migrate back down after reaching 40 to the larger field, where the odds are a bit better. It's also just a much nicer place to reset down there. The exception is if you are specifically trying to hunt Red Flower Flabebe, in which case you need the shiny patch to spawn on a red flower. The tile that gives you the highest odds of generating a shiny patch on a red flower is resetting in the middle of these red flowers here, so the tile I'm standing on right now. The odds of a red flower shiny patch at a 40 chain resetting here is around 1 in 389 per reset, as opposed to around 1 in 958 per reset in the larger field, where there are less red flowers. So yeah, the odds are pretty bad, but if you are hunting Red Flower Flabebe, you'll have to reset here, and hope that the shiny patch spawns on a red flower. Unfortunately, even when you get the red flower shiny patch, you won't be guaranteed the shiny is red, and you may get an orange or white one instead. And in that situation, you do have the option to KO the shiny to maintain maximum odds and keep resetting. However, it is very likely that the shiny patch will spawn on an edge, and the edges here are all very unsafe, so your chain may just break after you KO the shiny. And this actually happened to me the first time I hunted Red Flower Flabebe. The shiny patch spawned on the corner tile here, which is 25%. The shiny ended up being white, so I was forced to KO it, and 0 patches shook after the encounter, so I broke my 40 chain, and I was sad. Fortunately, I reclaimed it pretty quick and managed to get the red flower shiny. But yeah, the red flower for Bebe Hunt is a bit insane, so good luck to anyone who wants to attempt it. So I'm hunting Combee, so we don't need to worry about that. So I don't want to reset here. I want to migrate back down carefully. And reset here for Shiny Patch. Okay. It doesn't really matter too much which tile you reset for resetting the Shiny Patch. I think my calculation says that the middle one is very slightly more optimal to reset for Shiny Patch, but it's not really going to make any noticeable difference. Here's our Shiny Patch. Now, if I wanted to get a shiny female Combee to try and get Vespiquen, I would move a male Cute-Charm Pokemon to the front of my party right now, but I don't really care. To anyone else who accomplishes this, congratulations, you have conquered the most difficult route to radar chain in all of Kalos. Okay, that's about it for this video. If you were confused about anything that was discussed during this chain, please check out some of my radar tutorial videos. The link to my tutorial playlist will be in the description of this video. Hopefully you found this useful, thanks for watching, and good luck on your radar hunts.